Welcome back to Business Today. We're just having a good time here. And I was telling Victor and Prof, since these Skypes are existing, they're floating in the air yet with no proper market, we can be the first market they target so that we have some coffee here while chatting about business. But quickly, Prof, let me pick your mind in regards to this issue of market access. Even the way we handle, our president he travels a lot, of course that one we know, and he's been looking for work outside there, saying, oh, I've gotten this number of opportunities, you people go work, remittances and whatnot. But in regards to markets and access to markets, especially for SMEs, how critical is it?
Not really. We have not done well in terms of market for the SMEs because when you are thinking in terms of SMEs, number one could be if they are agro-based, that you look at market for the agricultural products outside. In other words, there should be an intention of reaching out to the other market, the other countries, and look for market for a specific product, the way Victor had put it. But then again, also in terms of the things that are unique to us, what we have patented, because that's again another area that MSEs, the SMEs could be doing well in terms of things which are Kenyan. So there needs to be effort towards that. I know up to now there is the AGOA, which is trying to help that. But then we need more and more in other countries because AGOA is simply in the US. I think we need to see what is it that these Chinese that are here would require from us. Then move to other parts like Malaysia, Singapore, and go to other countries like Australia and see what is it that our SMEs can produce that is required in Australia. But you see, the one that the president is doing is macro, the big aspects. So we need these aspects that will actually go to specifics.
Definitely.
Yeah.
That's very important.
There's something interesting that happened this week.
Yes.
Through a cabinet memo that was sent from cabinet. Something that piqued my mind was the policy development of a policy around recognition of prior learning. Mm-hmm. In something that people might have missed, but I think is a very critical document. The way I can put it is, if you look at maybe Dangote was putting up a refinery in Nigeria and was looking for welders. They were not able to get welders locally and had to outsource it from Asia. Mm-hmm. The same situation happens here in Kenya. We have a lot of Juakali people, either mechanics, welders who are there, who've learned through apprenticeship, ile tu kwa kiwanja, kujifundisha kwa kiwanja. Mm-hmm. They hold a lot of experience and talent. Mm-hmm. So that policy document is trying to bridge the gap between street smart or real life experience and getting an accreditation of sorts. Mm-hmm. So when you're able to link this informal sector person and recognize their skill and grade them, it means that you can be able to move from point A to point B and link them to a specific market that is needed. Let's say, for example, Africa is trying to connect through infrastructure. So these are opportunities that Kenya can take advantage of by giving someone an accreditation of sorts and linking them to that market. So I think that's also something that is a positive that we've noted that has happened.
That's incredible.
This week.
The Dangote story, though, that's very sector specific because welding in the oil, it's I think I've toured. Yeah. Maybe it might be privatized soon. Yeah. The Kenya pipeline. Yeah. It's a very specialized way of doing it, and I think having that foundation where somebody with such a background can easily, even as they upskill, because we are told there is that need for upskilling each and every time, it becomes easier for them to reach those levels that we are talking about.
But a policy then sets the tone, because now that it's coming from government, then you can be able to now use that as a guide to see how we can, of course, we can recognize, we can upskill. We already have the institutions, TVETs, NITA, and the likes. Then we can now link them to market, and then now that becomes a formal way in which you can be able to create jobs through linkage to markets.
Exactly, and you're saying policy sets the tone. In regards to the policy that touches on SMEs in this budget policy statement, and it has the word policy there, has it been intentional to address the needs of SMEs in the country, especially those that have traditionally bedeviled these sectors?
So the way we analyzed policy is looking at the 2023 budget policy statement. There are certain priority areas that were given some priority. The thing is, and this is a decriminalization of SMEs, looking at ensuring that the cost of business and efficiency of you getting licenses is reduced. So that was mentioned in 2023, but is missing in 2024. Then the question is, have we been able to achieve that agenda? So that misses in the 2024 budget policy statement. And what we are saying is we need a report of exactly a report card of exactly what transpired in the previous budget policy statement, because policy is a big issue. Issues around taxation. We see, with the introduction of e-teams and the push towards expanding the tax base, the people who get the brunt, of course, it goes back to SMEs. We also have the previous regime that had done a lot of work around policy, and specifically looking at how do you make it easier for someone to register their business? How do you make it easier for them to pay licenses, etc.?
Yes.
A good example is Nairobi County, which has already launched the Unified Business Permit. That's a fantastic move. So that even if it's expensive, at least it's easier for me to pay. I don't have to go through sketchy channels for me to be able to address that.
Yes.
And lastly, I think is the issue around cess and branding. The reason why we raise this is these are taxes that make running a business in the country uncompetitive. Meaning that if I'm trying to do agro-processing and I'm trying to move farm produce from one county to the next, I'll be charged cess in each and every county, and the formula changes. So what that does is it really it's a disincentive for someone to be able to have presence across counties to enable us to operate. The same goes for branding as an example. If you brand your car, then it means that you have to pay branding license across different counties. So there has to be some harmonization around cess, which would make us to be competitive. There are many issues around small courts, which were also introduced through ease of doing business from the previous regime. Again, that's silent in the BPS, and we know that being able to resolve disputes at our level, at an SME level, without having to go through the bureaucratic normal court process is also very important. So I think there has to be a comprehensive review of policy in totality, not just reducing tax and increasing somewhere there. It's just looking at look at the life cycle of a business and look at what policy affects them and how can we be able to reduce that. So those are areas that we hope that we can be able to see.
Indeed. Prof, I mean, when you talk about small businesses or SMEs, these are essentially the lifeline. These are the businesses that we eat from. These are the businesses that we dress from, that we build from. And just from a policy level, there seems to be a level of exposure that it's not yet guarded as it should. First of all, from your observation, especially from the world of academia, have you been able to compare, are there regimes, spaces that have been able to shield the SME sector and that Kenya can borrow a leaf from?
Noah, my perspective would be regional, even as we look at that. When we look at the ease of doing business, for example, like starting up a business, Kenya is not number one. We have Mauritius. So we actually can actually see what is it that Mauritius is doing in terms of starting up a business and the cost of doing business. Our neighbors, Rwanda, have been doing very well in terms of that. We need to see what is it that we can borrow from them. When you go to Rwanda, and I think many Kenyans have traveled to Rwanda. No, have you gone to Rwanda?
yes, Prof. I've gone to Rwanda.
Yes, when you go to Rwanda, you'll actually see the way starting a business will be easy. And I think there are some Kenyans that are there. Yeah. Now we have a market open for us at the DRC. And I think some of our SMEs are slowly moving into DRC. So I think when we look at what Mauritius is doing better than us, and South Africa, actually South Africa is still better in terms of startups. If we look at what they're doing from us, we can borrow a leaf, we can benchmark and do the same thing for us. And right outside there in the developed world, starting a business has been made easy, especially in some of these places that people want to go, like UAE, Dubai. Let's work towards something that can be like that, so that we can make our country a place where people can come and invest in. And even us ourselves, as we move to those other countries, we are able to borrow something out of them. So we are still not doing well in terms of the ease of starting business and enabling the startups. For me, my concern also is about competitiveness. We of late have really disadvantaged our small-scale manufacturers in terms of not giving them a very competitive environment. When you compare a Kenyan manufacturer with a manufacturer maybe in Uganda or maybe in Rwanda, there's some advantage that they have over us, mainly because probably of we need to revisit our taxation so that we can do well in that area and things like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Definitely. Prof, I like when you asked, have you been to Rwanda? I was like, okay, if I haven't been to Rwanda, what's next, Prof? You know, Victor, I know we were supposed to tackle SME and startups. Time is running out. So just to spare us the headache, first of all, of rushing through startups, I think it will be fair we just finish up with SMEs, then next week create a session on matters startups and budget policy statement, that nexus. Is that fair?
That's fair.
But quickly, on that issue of policy, I know one of the biggest talks we've had in the country has been touching on the continent, Africa Continental Free Trade area. And SMEs were pumped up. Now we are opening borders. I'll be able to sell my things to Ghana. You know, such questions were coming up. From a policy perspective, even as we set what we are setting as AU, are we seeing that level of intentionality on a continental space to be able to empower SMEs?
I think, of course, CFTA is a fantastic, is a fantastic initiative. I think the approach has to change for us to be able to start to see, low-hanging fruits. And I think at some point in 2022, there was an attempt to do a pilot of sorts. Because the idea was to, have protocols, have people ratify, etc., etc. And I think it's almost becoming theoretical. I think the approach has to change in terms of, can we be able to test out the way a startup would do? Can we be able to test and fail and learn and tweak policy based on the learnings that we get, as opposed to trying to develop policy in anticipation of trade happening? And I think the pilot that we did, and I think the previous president had, even launched some batteries beds that went to Ghana. That was a good fanfare. And I think that's the approach that I think we should be able to take in terms of, can we just take a bunch of things or items that we produce in Kenya, look for market in Nigeria, try to export that, and now tweak policy backwards to ensure that we are able to attain that, as opposed to looking at, developing the laws and the protocols, etc., then saying, let's now start
Okay.
I think we might never reach a point where we start. It's just a question of take stuff to Uganda, take stuff to Tanzania, then try to look at the customer journey and see which policies do we need to tweak, what lessons can we learn, then of course then we're able to get a win-win in terms of getting policies right, but as well as getting value to the market as soon as possible.
Definitely. It's that, it reminds me of inspirational speakers. Yeah, do it. Just do it.
Just
yeah?
do it.
The Nike way. Yeah. Then we'll figure out some of those challenges therein and streamline. But gentlemen, it's been a pleasure talking about SMEs and Rwanda. There's this interesting quote I've just seen here. That rain can soak a leopard's skin, but it does not wash out its spots. Food for thought, yeah? As we empower agricultural value chain, yeah? But Professor Tobias Soloni, good to see you. And today you've done a suit.
Yes,
Look at
yes,
you.
yes.
Prof, we are influencing you towards the right direction.
I think so.
Yes, yes. And Victor Tieno from Vifa Consult, always in a Pan-African cloth, yeah?
Supporting SMEs.
Supporting SMEs is very, very important, gentlemen. Thank you for your time. I really appreciate it. All right? That's been Biz Chat. That's how we close our week. Thank you very much for joining with us throughout the week. We really appreciate you taking time to tune into business today and KTN News in general. My name is Noah Kipkemboi. It's Friday. I'm super excited. Hope you have a blessed weekend. As this gentleman also, I believe, will have a very good weekend. Well, we have Mbiu KTN coming up next. Stay tuned and don't do anything I wouldn't do. That is Ken's quote, man.